Welcome to the Fat Guys with Smokers podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm John. We're a couple of overweight barbecue enthusiasts trying to share our love for sweet and smoky food with the world.
Thanks for hanging out with us as we talk about life, share recipes, successes, and failures that have all led to our love of cooking outdoors. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fat Guys with Smokers. I'm Mike, here with John and a very special guest.
Yeah.
John, you set this up. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, we've got Adam Mckenzie with us. Adam and I don't know, we've talked on and off at least a couple of times for the last couple of years on different posts and barbecue and stuff, and reached out to Adam to be on the podcast. And he was willing to be accommodating, put up with a couple of yahoos like us. So welcome, Adam.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. Yeah, definitely. Always enjoy chatting with you and seeing your posts and stuff, and love the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, Adam, maybe just take a minute to introduce yourself. Tell us where people can find you on social media, and maybe a little bit about how you got into barbecue and social media.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I run This You Can Q, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all those different channels have a website, jukenq.com. Yeah, so just really trying to post a love for food and get people excited to go outside and cook and fire up their smoker and just, have good times with family and friends. And started out as kind of a joke a few years ago. My wife wanted me to stop harassing her basically with a bunch of pictures of food and stuff. And she's like, why don't you start an Instagram? And started an Instagram, and then it kind of gained some popularity, and then it's kind of gone not downhill in a bad way, but it's definitely gotten really crazy since then, running a lot of different platforms and doing a lot of different stuff, but it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, you've got a healthy following on Instagram and your social platforms. And I mean, you've got Rubs with Spiceology, you've got a cookbook you just put out, and a couple of sponsorships with other groups as well. I mean, how was it? Just like one day you looked back and you're like, holy cow, how did this all happen? Or was it intentional and you had a plan to grow it this way?
I mean, part of it was intentional, and part of it, was kind of, I always dreamed that it would happen. Definitely very grateful for what has happened. It's really wild and crazy to see how big and how everything has transpired over the last few years. When I started, I definitely was like, oh, it'd be cool, to get attention to some of these companies, and it'd be cool to, get, be able to work with some of these people and get the attention here and there, but never thought it would get to the point it has gotten to. Definitely every day really just blown away by the support and just how people respond to my posts, and just, it's really crazy. And just, I definitely don't take it for granted. And I definitely feel, I'm kind of, a leader in the community. So definitely try and take that serious and try and really help others and really just kind of push things further.
Yeah. No, one of the things Mike and I often talk about is just like how warm and welcoming the barbecue community is compared to some of the other ones out there. And yeah, I don't even remember what the first thing you and I ended up talking about. But I think it was a question like that. I was like, how are you doing this? Like, what? I don't understand this part of barbecue. And you were great to do just that, to explain it to me as a newbie. And yeah, it's just it's been fun to watch you have success and all the things that have happened to you over the years.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's what's great about the barbecue community. It's just everyone's so welcoming, I mean, especially you see on social media, there's just so much hate and just so much negativity in a lot of places, and just a lot of garbage and stuff. And I mean, I think what's great is, with the barbecue community of people from all walks of life, coming together and able to come around with, around the idea of food and stuff. And it doesn't matter, what you look like, what your job is, what your beliefs are, everyone's just happy to be cooking and just happy to talk about it. It's just really cool to see that. It's just kind of a really nice light, with everything going on in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Adam, how do you keep up with everything? Like, we have posted a few reels, but I can't believe how much work it takes to try to post things on social media, and you're doing all these other things. Like, how do you find time in your day to take care of all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a whirlwind. It's definitely a juggling act, especially since the twins came into everything, definitely has added a whole new dimension of kind of craziness and like time management into and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a full-time job for sure. I mean, people really see it as, oh, I just post a picture of brisket and I get 1 million views and everything is good and I can just do that. But there's a lot more behind it. There's definitely a lot behind the scenes that I think people don't sometimes think about or don't see. It's finding that time to comment. It's finding time to respond to messages. It's finding time to create new content. So definitely, sometimes it's getting creative. Sometimes it's, when I get home from work, it's cooking 3 or 4 different things. So I have content for the next few days because I know the next few days are going to be crazy. It might be, making sure before I get my day started, spending 20, 30 minutes on getting caught up with something or getting that pictures for a blog post done. So it's definitely a full-time job, but, it's something I love and I don't really see it as a job. So I definitely don't mind spending the time to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, in your day job, you're a school teacher, right? High school? Is that right?
Elementary school. So I actually know middle
okay.
school as well. So I teach next year. We'll teach kindergarten through 8th grade STEM technology.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's super cool to STEM technology all the way down to kindergarten.
Yeah.
I wish we did more of that around here.
That's crazy. I'm getting a computer science endorsement, and some of the stuff that I bring home for homework, my elementary kids are like, "Oh, are you just coding using some block coding?" I was like, "What are you even talking about? How do you know this?"
Yeah, it's wild.
It's crazy, and that's the world they're growing up in. So it's cool that they're getting it that early.
Yeah, it's a cool way to, put the whole process behind it and just how you think through things. I definitely think it's an important skill for kids to look at and recognize. There's not going to be any job out there in the future that doesn't have coding or some type of that thinking involved in it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that thought process is, I've got a great team that I manage at work, but sometimes there are times where I just look at, especially some of the people that are just coming into the workforce, and like they've got no ability to like think through things logically or cause and effect, and just like some of that basic like thought process that you acquire when you start thinking about things like coding. Yeah, it'll be a great skill set for people to have. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially with like AI coming into the picture and stuff. It's going to add a whole other dimension. People are really going to have to, not only think through things, but understand, how to take that information and really apply it and use it.
Yeah.
Use it for good and not evil.
Yeah. Well, I guess Adam, what's your origin story in cooking and smoking? We hear from people all the time, like, oh, like someone gave me a smoker as a gift, or I was always like really interested in it. Like, what was your starting point? Like,
well, I remember growing up, my dad cooking, some barbecue and stuff on an old Brinkman, and, definitely just kind of remember those like family picnics and stuff. And I remember like the taste of like hot links and smoked chicken and just like really fond memories. I can still really like smell it and really like taste that food and stuff. And it was just always, like, how can I do that and stuff? And, definitely growing up, I didn't cook a lot. I definitely wasn't, in the kitchen every day and stuff, definitely ate out a lot and stuff. And, would cook at home occasionally. And then, in 2013 as a wedding present. My school bought me a smoker, and then it kind of went downhill from there. It was just kind of experimenting with stuff and just like, oh, I want to try and cook ribs. Okay, these are absolutely horrible. What do I need to fix? Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna cook a chicken. Oh wait, I burned it. So definitely kind of going through the process and just kind of getting hooked on it. When getting that first Traeger, and starting to see some results and be like, oh, these ribs are pretty good. Maybe I can make them better next time. What else can I cook? And just really opening up Pandora's box and just kind of jumping in and seeing what the possibilities were.
Yeah. I love to hear everyone I talk to, they're like, yeah, the first thing I made, it was kind of terrible.
Yeah.
Like it did not go the way that I wanted it to. And it's
anybody that doesn't say that, I feel like you can't trust them, because it's
like,
horrible for all of us the first time we try something.
It's like you had somebody to shepherd you through this process, and it's not fair. I mean, I know you're a big Traeger guy. Do you cook exclusively on Traegers, or do you have a range of cookers that you like to play with?
Right now I cook exclusively on Traegers. Just love the Traegers just for the ease, and just fits into my lifestyle really well, especially with the twins and stuff. I don't have to worry about fire management. I don't have to worry about some of those other issues. I know I can come home, fire up the smoker, hang out with the kids, get something on there. I just know it's going to work. I know the results really well, and just have a lot of fun with it. So definitely would love everyone to be cooking on a Traeger, but I know that's not going to necessarily happen. My main thing is I just want people cooking for family and friends. That's kind of my big push, getting people, instead of going out to a steakhouse, why not cook a steak at home that tastes better? Going out for barbecue, why not just make barbecue at home when you can do just as good of a job, if not better?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how after you've cooked on whatever it is you're using, I'm a big Traeger guy, so that's what I've got. But I go to the restaurants in town and order a steak, and like, I'm a little disappointed. It's like,
yeah,
I can do better at home, guys. Let's step up the game out in the food service world.
Yeah, there's very, very few restaurants where I'll go out and order a steak, and be like happy with it, and so it's rare that I find a steak in a place that I'll order consistently.
Yeah, most of the places that I go that I really loved ordering a steak from, I don't go to very often because I can't afford it. What's your favorite thing to cook?
I would say steak. I think I just really like cooking steak. Definitely it's gotten harder with food prices. Definitely skyrocketing and stuff. But I think steak is just really fun, just because it's so versatile. There's so many different cuts, so many different ways you can serve it. You want to do a rice bowl, you want to do fajitas, you want to do tacos, you want to do sandwiches. I just think there's so many options, and that's what's really great about it.
So walk us through like a typical steak cook on a Traeger. How do you do it?
So I'm a big fan of the reverse sear. I just think, the results you get from spending a little bit of extra time just really speak for themselves. So, I try and thaw out the steak as much as possible. I usually, when I put a steak on, it's right around, 40 to 50 degrees. So it's still pretty cold inside. I usually use some olive oil or a hot sauce binder. Season it with either my garlic junkie rub or, I've used Meat Church, a lot of Traeger rubs. And then I put it on the grill at 225 super smoke. I cook that to about 115, 120 internal. And then I will go ahead and sear it. Lately, I've been using the griddle to kind of finish it off and having fun on the griddle. So crank that up to high, cook that, if it's a thicker steak, a couple minutes aside. Usually it's right around that 125 to 130 when I pull it, and then let it rest, and then slice in and, document it. And then, if it's Facebook, I hear it's raw comments, because no one likes medium rare on Facebook. And then Instagram, it's perfect because people know what's up, and you don't want to butcher a steak and cook it to 190 degrees.
Yeah, it's funny. You said it perfect. I'll just leave it alone. I won't go after Facebook users. But yeah. Well, and garlic junkie, man, that is a great rub. Like you nailed it on that one.
Thanks. Yeah, I got really lucky and hit it right on with that one. And yeah, certainly really proud that has my name on it. That's one of my favorite rubs. I know it's definitely used a lot. It's always crazy when I hear how much it's used and how much people love it. Definitely it's really, really cool to see.
Yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about that process too. I mean, I definitely want to hear about the cookbook in a minute, but I mean, you started with the rubs. Was that had you been doing your own rubs at home and wanted to try and take them commercial? Did Spiceology come to you? How'd that whole process happen?
Yeah, so definitely been playing around with flavors at home and stuff, and been looking at ideas, on how I could bring something to the market. Definitely, I don't have the time, to fill up my basement with spices and spend nights shipping and stuff. I know some people do. I know Maciek Grilling with Dad does, and I don't know how he keeps up with that shipping and stuff. And it's crazy. I know that's how basically Matt Pittman got started with Meat Church, shipping and going to the post office and stuff. I knew that route wasn't really going to be for me right now. So I, got approached by Spiceology, and definitely was a really cool opportunity, and really grateful that, they're willing to kind of take on the brunt of the work and that shipping and kind of some of that heavy lifting and stuff, and takes off a lot of work on my plate. I definitely have to do the promotion and stuff and make sure the quality is there, because my name is on the product, and I definitely want to make sure that, something with my name on it is a high standard and a high quality product. But yeah, it was really kind of a interesting and humbling experience, to really be approached by a company as big as that, and to have an opportunity to put something out there on the market, because there's so many rubs out there and just so many flavors of opportunities and stuff. And I think with garlic junkie, I wanted something kind of unique and a little different. I still feel that there's not really a rub like it on the market. There's rubs that are kind of close, but I really feel that flavor's still pretty unique, and it's not something that's replicated a lot. So that's kind of what my goal was. I didn't just want another steak rub, that just was going to kind of get lost in the shuffle, because, there's, so many rubs out there. I mean, as you know, it's like, which rub do you go? You look at your spice cabinet or spice cabinets, and it's like, what am I going to use today? I have so many rubs. I could probably use a different rub for 3 months and, never use the same one. So it's crazy. And it's a cool opportunity to be able to have something out there on the market that people are using.
That's awesome. I mean, take a minute, like free promo here. Like what, garlic junkie is probably your best selling rub. Which other rubs do you have?
So smoke junkie, which is kind of your pork chicken rub. I really like that one. That one I kind of wanted, again, something kind of different, a little unique. I best describe it as like a barbecue potato chip flavor, but in seasoning form. I wanted something that produces a nice color. So something that really stands out when you let that meat sweat, and when it's finished. So that's smoke junkie. And then brunch junkie is kind of a little bit different. It's basically a spicy Bloody Mary in seasoning form. So kind of just fun to play around with on fish. I've seen people use it on steak though, and chicken, just a fun, different flavor. And then coffee junkie is kind of garlic junkie, but more coffee flavor in there. So you do get a little bit more sweetness in the coffee junkie, and you get a little bit more of that darker color because of the coffee, which I like. So if you're looking to get a really nice dark looking bark, for brisket it's really good, beef ribs it's really good, steak it's fun just because it looks different, it just stands out, and just kind of has that pop of flavor that a lot of people really like.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, I haven't. I've gone through a couple of the big bottles of garlic junkie at this point. I haven't tried many of the other ones, but that smoke junkie, you had me at barbecue chips.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I'm on board.
Yeah, we'll have to try that out. I guess if you're not using one of your rubs, who do you have a favorite rub?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's so many. I mean, I use Meat
Yeah.
Church, I use
Yeah.
Hardcore Carnivore, the Traeger rubs. Um, Snake River Farms has a few little rubs that are good. Revolution Barbecue. Again, it's one of those ones. There's so many rubs out there. It's as you know, it's just so hard to keep up with
Yeah, it
what
is.
they are.
I was at the store the other day and walked past the Traeger display, and there were like 6 new rubs that I didn't even know they had put out yet. That some of them look pretty good.
Yeah, the burger rub is really good.
I was
Haven't
looking at
tried that,
the burger, and then it's their like everything bagel type rub that just looks like it could be game changing on breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just tough. It's just there's so many flavors to try, and there's just not enough hours in the day and not enough food to cook to try it all. But yeah, again, it's cool because I think there's something out there for everyone, and I think there's so many great flavors. If something's a little too sweet, then there's another rub, that might not be as sweet. For me personally, a lot of the Traeger rubs are a little too sweet. Someone once mentioned I used to love prime rib rub, and someone's like, "Oh, it has too much sugar in it." And now I can't get that taste of sugar out of my head whenever I have it. So now I can't use it as much as I used to because all I taste is the sugar.
What's your favorite thing to eat?
Favorite thing to eat?
Yeah, I talked about favorite things to cook, but what do you like to eat the best?
I just love food. I just love everything. I'm not a food snob. I will, eat Taco Bell. I will eat, the newest junk food that comes out. Or I can eat really fancy food. I just enjoy all types of food and know there's a place for it, and there's just, there's that situation and time for all of it. So I just really enjoy everything and just kind of experiencing new foods, whether it's that, cheap new creation at Taco Bell, or whether it's, some new sushi roll at the sushi restaurant, or, a hamburger, or whether it's tacos. I just want to eat.
Man,
you fit right in.
Yeah. Yeah. Spoken like a true hero. I just like to eat. That should be we need to get my kids are really big into superheroes, whether it's Spider-Man or the Marvel, or we need to get like a superhero who just can eat and eat and eat.
And that'll be his tagline.
Yeah. Who, as you got started in cooking, did you have any mentors, or who were your inspirations?
There's so many great people out there in the community. I think, Benny Kendrick Barbecue, was really supportive, taking time to answer questions. A lot of those Traeger people, Matt Pittman, Chad, just a lot of people really just kind of, opening up and just being really helpful, and taking some time out of their crazy schedules, after meeting them and knowing how much they do, it's really cool to see people really taking the time and being helpful to people out there in the community. So I think, that's kind of why I try and take the time and just try and live up to that. And then I think, also when I started, that's kind of when Sasquatch and Grilling with Dad, we all kind of started around the same time. So, we definitely have a bond, I think from kind of jumping in it around the same time. And, we've all taken kind of different paths and stuff. So I think, that's been a really nice community of people to look at and kind of see what has happened and what to kind of do out there.
Yeah. It's funny you bring Sasquatch up. I don't know if it's the algorithms or what, but I don't feel like I've seen a ton from him. How's he doing?
He's doing good. He hasn't posted in a few months. I know he's had some life stuff pop up, but he's doing well. I hear from him occasionally. What's funny is whenever I think about him, I get a random text from him. So it was really funny. My wife and I, it was more than a few weeks ago, but we were like, "Where's Sasquatch? We haven't heard from him in a while." And 5 minutes later, no joke, he literally texted and was like, "Hey, everything's okay. I'm gonna make a reappearance soon." So I know he'll come back on the scene. I know people miss him. He's definitely a bigger than life force out there. So, so he's doing well, and hopefully we see some of his food posts again, and we'll hear from him.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I knew he had some life stuff happen there, and it's hard when that stuff comes up, but glad to hear he's doing well. So when you get a text later today, tell him people are thinking about him.
Yeah, we're talking about him now, so he'll probably.
That's awesome. Well, tell us about your cookbook. I mean, I was super excited to get it and had it on pre-order when it finally showed up. I was psyched, and your love of all types of food like clearly comes across in this cookbook. But I've heard stories about writing cookbooks and all of the work that goes into it, and I mean, just getting all of the food ready for photography in and of itself, let alone writing the recipes. And just take a couple of minutes to walk us through that. Was it a good experience? Did you want to give up at some point through the process? How did it go?
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was definitely a really great experience. Definitely a lot of work. I think didn't realize how much. It was really interesting to get the opportunity because, I'm not a trained chef in any way. I don't have any formal education in culinary. So it was really kind of interesting, it was right when COVID started, Page Street reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to write a cookbook? Do you want to, do something on the Traeger? We went through a few different ideas of things to cook. What the concept could be. At first, it was going to kind of be hot and fast cooking, but a lot of recipes didn't really fit into the hot and fast. And then, just kind of a disagreement, on like how fast things were. It's like, well, this takes 3 hours. Well, we can cook that faster. And it's like, well, I don't know if we can really cook that faster and stuff. Yeah. So kind of the weeknight cooking, kind of, because when I think about it, a lot of people get a Traeger, to cook those ribs, cook a brisket. It's kind of that, once or twice a week, pulling it out, but really wanted people to see that you can use your smoker. You can use it for every meal. You can do, different things on it. You can bake on it. You can do a quick weeknight meal. It doesn't have to be that long, extensive 8-hour cook. It can be a quick 15-minute cook. So the timing was right because it was right during COVID. So definitely had a little bit more time with stuff. School was still crazy, but definitely, teaching online, allowed a little bit more freedom, with being able to kind of play around with some recipes and get started with the process. So my wife helped a ton in the cookbook. We wrote about 75 recipes. So, we go through the whole process of writing it, and of course, America has to be difficult to not use the metric system. So you have to convert everything into the metric system, which it takes time and none of the weights match up and it always seems weird. And then you're second guessing everything. So we got all the recipes written up in about 3 months or so. I think we started the process, I want to say in May, June, and by October, late September, we had the kind of the rough draft of that done. And then in October, it was nice. They sent out, I wanted the picture. I didn't want to take the pictures because I kind of wanted a different look. I wanted to see what other people how they would see my food and take pictures of it. So they sent out a photographer. So he came out on a Monday, and Monday through that Saturday, we cooked 60 recipes.
Oh man.
Holy cow.
So we were cooking from about 8 a.m. to about 6 p.m. Definitely got really tired of cooking. We invited family and friends over. We're like, come take this food. I don't want to see it. I don't want to eat it. So it was like, people are like, I can't take this much food. It's like, nope, you're taking this much food and more.
You can, and you will.
But so, yeah, I mean, it was really crazy. I think the first day, we cooked, like brisket, beef ribs, I think a turkey, a couple steak dishes. I mean, it was insane, cooking like 8 or 9 things a day. We had every Traeger fired up, we had, 6 smokers going at a time. with something on it. I think one of the craziest experiences was the shooting the cover for the cookbook, which ended up not being the cover. So we had like the whole grill loaded up. We had a pork roast on it. We had a leg of lamb. We had Hasselback potatoes. We had vegetables. And, the photographer would take a picture of me holding the grill open, and then he would run upstairs, edit it, send it off to Page Street, and they would come back and they'd be like, the potatoes are about 15 degrees off center. So can you reshoot it? So we
Oh
would,
my gosh.
like go back down and take a picture, and like, I'll send you some pictures later, but there's some like behind the scenes of me where like, 40 minutes into it, I'm like, just please, let's just end this process. Let's just be done. Let's just be done. There's, 100 pounds of food on the smoker. We need to get this done. And then we ended up not even using that cover that we took all the time for the cookbook. I don't even think that final picture even made the cookbook. That we spent all those hours. Yeah, it was a crazy and it was a fun experience, but it was cool. It was really cool to see because the photographer Ken Goodman, he has a lot of training in food and being in barbecue and stuff, and just to see him kind of put his spin on it and just listen to his advice and just see some of the things he can do was just really cool and inspiring to see.
Oh, that's awesome. Like I mean, Mike and I have talked a couple of times about like big cooks that we've done, and yeah, how you get to that point where like by the time it's over, like you don't want to eat, you don't want anything to do with it, you don't want to smell it. I can't imagine doing that like a whole week that intense.
With so many different things too. Like that's crazy.
Oh
yeah, it was a crazy experience. Definitely, it's one of those things, it's, do I write another cookbook? Because I know that part will come up, and it's like, can I do that again knowing what that was like?
Yeah, now that you know what it's like. Well, I think that's the whole weeknight smoking thing is a genius idea, because I feel like you're right. Like people get a smoker and they're thinking ribs and stuff, but I mean, most of us don't have that much time, or we don't plan ahead. It's good to have a bunch of these weeknight recipes that it's like, oh, we can just do this right now, and we don't have to, be brining a turkey for 24 hours or whatever. Just to have all those ideas that you can just quickly do on a weeknight when you're just trying to get dinner on for your kid.
Yeah, sometimes you just have 15 minutes if you have 15 minutes. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The baking piece, and I mean, obviously you're not doing this like on a stick burner and in an ugly drum or something, but these pellet smokers, like they will act as your oven. I mean, we have had the weirdest winter on the side of the mountains. Ton of snow. Our spring was wetter than it ever has been. So we're just now kind of getting to the hot summer part of it. I think it got to 80 yesterday. But like, man, once it gets hot, man, my oven does not get turned on in the house for the entire summer. My wife figured that out real early on, and everything she cooks just straight out into the Traeger.
Yeah, I think it's nice to just kind of push it out. I mean, we use our oven as basically storage for pots and pans, and I always joke, can I get a industrial hood put in my kitchen and just bring the Traeger inside? And
that'd be sweet.
Dreams right there.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day. I think it was we had some family in town. My uncle who lives in Florida, it's so humid there. He's like, I just don't ever I don't want to be outside, period. I was like, let me show you a couple of pictures of like industrial hoods and garages that are air conditioned. Then you can run a smoker, man. You can make this happen. But yeah, I think that's my favorite trick or tip to tell guys when they're trying to convince their wives about why they need a pellet smoker is it will replace your oven. Your house will stay cool. Your house will stay clean. Like you can cook outside.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I had that conversation with Whitney at one point.
Yes, you did. You sure did.
So that's awesome. speaking of tips and, tricks, Adam, if as people are getting into this, if you're going to give someone advice as they were getting started, what would you tell them?
I think the biggest thing is, just really know not everything is going to be perfect. Really just take those chances. You'll always be chasing that brisket unicorn, of trying to capture the perfect brisket. You're always gonna, be the toughest critic on yourself. I know what's funny is a lot of the food I cook, I don't eat a lot of it because it's not that I'm unhappy with it, but I just know that it could be better. And I cook a lot of stuff because I really just like people saying, "Oh, this is really good." But I like seeing my family and friends really happy with what I cook. But I think the biggest thing is just really take chances. Again, going back, it's, you're going to mess up cooks. It's not always going to go perfect, and know that, and know it can always be better, and just be willing to learn and grow. There's no such thing as, the right way to cook a brisket. There's no such thing as the right way to cook a steak. You kind of have to adapt that, and for your family and your style and your needs.
That's awesome.
Well said.
Yeah. Although we should add some controversy to this, because you said there's no right way to cook a brisket. Fat up or fat down, Adam?
I go fat side down.
Oh, interesting.
I'm a fat up guy.
I
did fight to the death. That's the only way we can settle this.
I used to do a lot of briskets fat side up. The reason I switched to fat side down was the direction of the heat. So the heat's coming from the bottom, so the fat kind of protects. And then I had a conversation with Chad, and basically what's happening, he was saying, is one of the reasons why he likes to do fat side down is because when you do fat side up, you're getting all the oil and stuff from the meat, and that's not going to mix well with like the moisture and other parts of it. So fat side down. But again, no right or wrong way. But
yeah,
but fat side down.
Fat side down. I've done it both ways. I've had good results both ways. I don't know. I'll have to try another one down just for you.
Do you wrap? I can't remember. Do you wrap with foil or butcher paper?
Butcher paper.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending on how much time I have, I'll either go 180 or 225 up to the stall, and then I'll wrap and finish at 225, 250.
Okay.
Till it's, you get around that 203 magic number, probe tender, and pull it and rest for a couple hours.
Okay. And here's a random question, because I saw this comment on Facebook and it got me really thinking with a lot of stuff. How long do you wait before you put it in a cooler or wrap it up before you rest it?
I go straight off the smoker, wrapped into a cooler. I don't wait.
That's what I've done too. Is there a better way to do it?
That's what I have always done, and I'm always pretty happy with the results. But someone was, and I don't know if there's truth in it or not, because you never know with things, and things vary from people to people. But someone was saying to wait. There was a comment on one of my brisket posts on Facebook, and someone said to wait an hour after cooking to put it in a cooler. And they were saying the reason is because it's so hot,
it'll continue to cook.
You'll still trap a lot of that heat, and you'll dry out the brisket more. Now, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but it definitely has not left my mind. And I've definitely am like, all right, well, now I need to try this with one of the longer cooks, whether it's beef ribs or brisket. And next cook I do, I'm going to take it off. I wrap in butcher paper as well. I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to leave it out for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to put it in a cooler. I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I buy the idea that you're going to trap heat and that you're going to keep that in the cooler. Part of that's the reason I want it in the cooler, is to keep some of that heat, because I'm normally going to try and, I typically hold mine from anywhere from 2 to 4. I think the longest I've ever gone is, 6 hours before I've served it. And
yeah, because it'll get done early or whatever. you might have to hold it. And so I would think you would want it hot, but what were we watching? I think it was the beef ribs that Matt Pittman did, that they rested it to a temperature.
Yeah, that
Do you
was
remember that?
yeah, in the series that he and Chad just did recently, he talked about resting down to a temperature, which I had never even thought of.
Yeah, probably right around that. Like, I mean, well, I know like serving, you want to kind of around that 140. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely one of those new dimensions and new things that adds to it. You know, I was trying to think, you know, just how what Franklin barbecue does. Are they, you know, how long are those sitting out before they kind of put them away? You know, it's
Mhm.
just another thing to think about with brisket cooks, and another thing to you know, overanalyze, you know, and how much of a difference is it going to make, you know?
Yeah, yeah, when Matt and Chad were talking about that, I was like, holy cow, I'd never even thought about like actually watching a temperature to decide when I was going to serve it. It was always cook it so I had at least at least a couple of hours for it to rest before I cut into it. But just making sure that it was warm enough, people weren't like, oh, this is kind of cold.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea of going to a temperature was different, but let me tell you, I made those beef ribs the other day, and I don't know I have eaten anything as rich and tender in my life as beef ribs. They were fantastic.
Yeah, brisket on a stick is
Brisket
fantastic.
on a stick. I love that.
Yeah. It's brisket. And look, I like the point. I'm all about the point on a brisket. Like, flat's great. You can do whatever you want with it. But the point's where it's at, and that's like all beef ribs are. Like it's
Yeah.
brisket point stuck on bone, and oh man,
melt in your mouth. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny. I was Tano's barbecue, Nate. I had lunch with him the other day. Because he was in Colorado. I was giving him a hard time and joking about how Kansas City destroys the point. And, burn ends are great and stuff, but it's like, really, you just softened that all up and just cooked it more. It's like, it's already delicious. What'd you do to my delicious?
I've been known to take the flat and turn the flat into burnt ends and save my point.
I honestly don't think I have made burn ends with a brisket in 5 years.
Yeah, it's not one that I do often. I know people love it. I'll do pork belly burnt ends more than I'll do brisket burnt ends.
Yeah, pork belly. I'll do chuck roast burn ends as well and stuff. I don't know. It's just I love burn ends. It's just I don't know, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just something I just love the point. The point's just so good and just so delicious, and
yeah,
bring it on.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I guess I've got one more question here on the sheet, but any questions you've got, Adam, or things you wanted to talk about that we haven't hit?
What's your favorite barbecue place? What's your best bite of barbecue you've cooked, or what's your best bite of barbecue you've had at a restaurant?
Ooh. I don't know if it's just because it was literally a couple of weeks ago that I did those beef ribs, but I think those beef ribs might be my best bite I've ever done. Like it was truly one of those things that you just put in your mouth and it melted.
Nice. Where'd you get your beef ribs from?
The very fine establishment of Sam Walton's Club.
Okay.
No. Very exclusive. You have to have a membership. It's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
Top quality.
Yeah. No, I look for availability and price. I think Sam's Club and Costco are about as good as you can get, really. You can get into butcher shops, and we live in a very ag community. So we've got some great meat processors and stuff around here, so you can get it, but it's spendy. So most of my meat comes from one of the big warehouses.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Mike, what about you?
Dude, those beef ribs were bomb. Those were probably some of the best thing. I did a brisket on my offset that I built just a couple weeks ago. That's probably been my favorite cook that I've done personally. The whole process was a lot of fun, but it turned out really good, and I was pretty happy with the results. So that's probably my favorite to this point. Hopefully much more to come.
Yeah. My best thing I've ever had at a restaurant. I'm gonna give you two. I think like quintessential barbecue, like everybody on social media is talking about canon events in your life. I had brisket at Franklin's, and that he is the father of brisket. Like, Aaron's got it figured out. Like,
that'll change your life. So good.
It's
change your life.
It really is. Like, you think you've had brisket, and then you have a bite of Aaron's brisket, and it's just like, oh my gosh, how? So that's fantastic. But the one that like wakes me up at night that I'm like, oh, I am craving this. I want it. His name's Cam. Now I'm blanking on his last name. I was going to say Newton, but that's definitely, I don't think that's
Cam Newton.
Yeah, I don't think that's his last name. In Orem, Utah at Bam Bam's.
Okay. I heard some stuff about that. Yeah, I've heard some stuff about that places. Yeah.
He's where I discovered swachos, so nachos with barbecue on it.
Okay.
And his the pulled pork swachos there. Like, it's about a 2-hour drive from my house there. That it's a regular thing that I'm like, should we make the drive? Like, let's just go. Like, let's get in the car and go. Because they're that good.
Nice.
So mine's a little different take. I went to, and we've talked about this on here, but I went to one down in St. George called Picarica, just a new one. And the meat was great, but they had some corn. I think they called it elote. But I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
That was new to me, and it changed my life. Like, I'm a new man having had that. It was really good. And I would love to try to recreate it at home. So I've been kind of looking at recipes and stuff, but that was, man, it was really good. So
I just posted a recipe, funny enough.
I just saw that actually as we were talking. So that's what I'll be doing this weekend.
Yeah, good elotes will definitely change your life. It's funny. I remember when I was out in Utah for a Traeger event, and I was with Benny. I think when Benny had elotes for like one of the first time, out, I was like, "What is this? It's so good!" And like, definitely it changes your life. Like, you just cannot get enough of it. You just need more of it.
That's awesome. Well, what about you? I mean, best bite, best place.
Colorado definitely has, some good barbecue. It's funny. People think of like Colorado would have tons of amazing barbecue options. We have some good barbecue here, but I still really love Texas barbecue. I really love, been to Austin twice. I've had Franklin. I've had La Barbecue. Been to Louis Mueller's, which if you want beef ribs, that beef rib will change your life. I mean, that is the best beef rib and probably some of the best barbecue you'll ever eat. When you think of barbecue restaurants that you walk in, it's an old establishment. The place smells like barbecue, like it's not coming off of the walls. It's, you get a giant beef rib there. It's really good. But I think, one of my two favorite places in Texas are Snow's, just because I think of Snow's as your like quintessential like barbecue place. You're driving out to the middle of nowhere. Nothing's really in the town except Snow's and a gas station, and some other ranchers and stuff. You just kind of get the whole experience. You're eating outside, and they do the traditional barbecue, but their pork steak will change your life. It's just so good. And then I really like Valentina's, just because I think with barbecue in general, with brisket, it's getting, it's so hard to know which one's the best one. You can go to Franklin and it's amazing, no doubt. But, if it's getting to the point where it's like, oh, well, so-and-so was running the smoker that day and they ran it a little hot. So the brisket wasn't as good as Law Barbecue this day because so-and-so, was running the smoker. So I think, it's, what are people doing differently to elevate barbecue? And I just think those tacos at Valentina's are just life-changing. They're just so good and just so different, just putting different flavors with it adds that dimension that other places are not doing and just kind of bumps it over.
That's awesome. Yeah, Valentina's isn't one that's on my radar. So next time I'm there, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, Valentina's is really good. And I mean, there's a lot of new ones that I haven't gone to that I've heard of. There's like Interstellar, there's Burnt Bean, I've heard is really good. Just kind of doing some of that different stuff, just taking, the traditional, but putting a new spin on it. And I think that's kind of what's really standing out now and really being different because the brisket's getting so hard to tell, which is the best.
Yeah. Mike and I have often talked about like just doing a road trip and spending a couple of weeks on the road doing nothing but eating barbecue.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
I don't know that our doctors would recommend that, but
well, I just don't go to my doctor very often.
I like the way you think.
So
I like it.
nice. I guess the last question here, just on the sheet, we're coming up on the 4th of July. Any big plans? Anything you're just excited to be cooking for the 4th?
I think I'm going to do beef ribs. I think I have a rack of beef ribs and I think I'm gonna cook those. I love beef ribs, and definitely talking about them today has got me kind of inspired. So I think I need to get those on the smoker.
Do it. Nothing goes wrong with beef ribs.
No.
So, well, awesome. Well, if nothing else, I'm hungry now. So
yeah, I'm starving.
Yeah, Adam, thanks again for taking some time out of your Saturday. Say thanks to your wife as well. We know the burden that coming on podcast early Saturday morning puts on the family. So appreciate that time. Appreciate all you do for the community and the conversations we've had. Look forward to having more of them with you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's always a lot of fun to talk barbecue and I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Very cool. Well, until next time, I'm John.
I'm Mike.
Here with Adam on Fat Guys with Smokers. Thanks for listening to the Fat Guys with Smokers podcast. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe so you don't forget to tune in for even more nonsense from a couple of Fat Guys with Smokers.
Don't forget to like, subscribe.